Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're doing Revolutionaries. The topic for this Revolutionaries, the patriarch of the Guerrero wrestling family, Salvador Gory Guerrero, aka just Gory Guerrero. Now you may know Gory Guerrero, you may have heard his name, probably his most famous contribution to wrestling for this generation and probably the last 2 or 3 generations is his 4 sons that all became wrestlers. That's Hector, Mondo, Chavo Guerrero Sr., and Eddie Guerrero. 4 of the best wrestlers of their generations, 4 of the most skilled wrestlers in the world, all the sons of one of the most legendary wrestlers in the history of Lucha Libre. Gory Guerrero joins EMLL, which is now known as CMLL, in 1937, basically 3 years after the company has started. And I'm not going to do a deep dive into his career, I'm just giving you just a bit of background. This is more going to be focusing on why I think he's a revolutionary wrestler. From there being so early in EMLL, he helped to shape Lucha Libre. Him, Blue Demon, El Santo, and other stars in the early era of Lucha Libre kind of made it what it was going to be. And what makes those 3 so special, and Gory specifically, one of my main reasons why I think he's so revolutionary, he's kind of one of the guys that helped set the template of the Rudo versus Technico dynamic that lasts in Lucha Libre through to this day. He also helps define what Lucha Libre is with the high-flying, the technical aspects, and specifically submission moves. Obviously, you know the 2 moves he's probably most famous for, the Gory Special Submission and the Camel Clutch. He's one of the guys that, if I were to liken it to someone more contemporary, like let's say the WWF boom of the 1980s, you had the guys that were on the top, like Hogan, Andre, Piper, he would be in that mix. Him, Blue Demon, El Santo, those 3 would be basically your equivalent of Piper, Andre, and Hogan. Not only did Gory help popularize Lucha Libre, he's also one of the guys that first helped get Lucha Libre national prominence. He's one of those guys that really implements the storytelling aspect and spreads the word of Lucha Libre through his travels through the world. There isn't a lot of talk about Gory Guerrero being one of the guys, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. The more I dig deeper and deeper into wrestling history and read about Lucha Libre history, the more I realize, yes, El Santo was the guy. Yes, Blue Demon was right up there with him. Others like Mil Mascaras might have been bigger, but when you really get into the minutiae and you really read up about it and the history and the brawls and the different things, you start to realize that Gory Guerrero is not just the patriarch of 4 other outstanding wrestlers, he's the template for probably 4,000 other wrestlers. He's a guy whose influence directly changed the sport of wrestling, and then it was carried on through his children and his grandchildren in some cases. Shout out to Dominic Mysterio, grandson of the late great. I'm just kidding. Gory's a guy that I think kind of is a lost footnote in the history of wrestling. You may have heard the name, you may know him for being Eddie Guerrero's father. Heck, you may have even been a Chavo Guerrero Sr. fan when Chavo Guerrero and Roddy Piper were having their legendary feud in California. But there isn't that much talk about how Gory was right there in the mix, all the way from the beginning of Lucha Libre, helping define what Lucha Libre is. And to me, that's why I think he's so revolutionary. That's why I think he's so special. Incorporating different moves, different style, helping incorporate the Rudo versus Technico kind of storytelling aspects of it. In my opinion, the world of pro wrestling in large and Lucha Libre in general is not what it is today without Gory Guerrero. So for that reason, I wanted to make this video, expand a little bit on his legendary career. I highly recommend digging into Gory Guerrero's wrestling career, what made him so special, reading up about him. There's not much video, if any at all, on him. I couldn't tell you 15 matches that I've seen of his. I've seen a couple, mostly in his later career. I mean, obviously, he started wrestling in 1937, so there isn't much video from that era of wrestling, period. And it's even sparser when you talk about Lucha Libre. But read up on him. Read up the articles that happened in real time. Read up how people talk about him with such reverence. To me, he's one of the unsung heroes in Lucha Libre. Again, that's the reason why I picked him for this video. With all that being said, I want to say thank you to Gory Guerrero for all your contributions. My name is George Coles, and this has been Revolutionaries.